energize your spiritual life. Let me tell you what the devil does. He wants to take what you got. He wants to take any ounce of faith that you have in your life and strip it from you. And he is cunning, and he's evil, and he masks himself, the word says, even as an angel of light. And he disguises himself as something good. And he knows the vocabulary that he needs to use, and he knows how to manipulate, and he knows how to twist and to con, and he will speak that thing into your life that he may suck it out of you. Well, the word says he comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. That's why you don't let anything unholy minister to your life. You let only that which is holy minister to you. You let something unholy minister to you, then it isn't long that you're unholy too. And if you're not acting unholy, you're at least receiving it in your heart in unholiness. But God's faithful. Joseph dreamed again. This time he dreamed that the sun and the moon and the 11 stars would bow before him. So how in the world is that going to happen? He told it to his daddy, and his daddy knew exactly what he was talking about. He was talking about mom and dad and the brothers. This time mom and dad were included. They too will bow down. And if you remember the story of Joseph, the way it happened, first it was the 11 brothers, it was the brothers, and then it came the mom. The mom never made it; she died on the way, but Dad got there. God fulfilled his destiny, but he never gave up; he never quit. Joseph dreamed the sun, the moon, 11 stars bowed down to him. The word says that the Father rebuked him. Now he's got a word from God, and even the person that is closest to him. And Joseph is his favorite. Rebuked him. Said, shall your mother and I and your brothers indeed come down to bow before, or bow down to the earth before you? You see, this was a reminder to Joseph, greatness. Greatness is in store in your life. That's what's in store for you. In church, if you don't have that in your own spirit, you need to get that greatness. God has called you to greatness. Jesus said, I came that you may have life and that you may have it to its fullest. It's His very intention to give you a full life. He wants you to have a great life. He doesn't want to hold you back. He doesn't want to put His thumb on you and take all the joy away from you. That's not what He does. That's what the enemy does. He comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. People may mock you. You get excited for Jesus, people will make fun of you. You get something from God, not everybody in the church can accept it some of the time. What do? We hold on to our faith. We find a footing that the enemy cannot take us down. Our faith is a strong footing. But if you lose your faith, the enemy can run over your life because you overcome by faith. And their hatred, because they hated him all the more, the Word says. They hated him for his dreams. They hated him for his words. They hated him because he got something from God. They hated him because God was exalting them above them. They began to mock him and make fun of him, and they sold him in their hatred. They said, let's get rid of this dreamer. And some Ishmaelites came by. And Ishmaelites are after Abraham's other son, the one of flesh. They came by and they said, hey, let's not kill him. Let's just sell him. Let's make a little profit off of him. He's our flesh and blood. Let's not kill him. Let's just sell him off. God had a plan. They sold him off. The Ishmaelites took him, dumped him out in Egypt. Made some money off of him. They traded him twice. Must have been a good guy. Made a lot of money off of him. See, these brothers could have called on the God of heaven just like you can. They could have called on the God of heaven and God would have given them revelation. I know that God had a destiny in mind for Joseph and those things had to be done. But understand, they had the right to call upon God just like Joseph did. And yet they sold him into slavery through hatred. You see, they tried to kill something. They tried to kill the spirit of the flesh. If you want to kill your God-given dream, I'm going to tell you one of the ways to kill it. If you want to never fulfill God's dream in your dream for your life that God gave you, here's how you kill it. Number one way, live in the flesh. If your five senses enjoy it, go ahead and do it. And you will be a mess. You will never step into destiny. You will never walk. You will never walk in dominion. You will never step on the devil's head. You will never bruise his head. All you'll do is strike your heel. Because we're called to live in the Spirit. If you want to put to silence the power of your flesh, and you want to live the right dream, then you have to live a life without compromise. You want to see your life fulfilling that thing, you need to understand that the enemy comes to steal. And one of the ways he does it is when you make a decision to not live in the Spirit, but to live in the flesh. In Genesis chapter 39, after Joseph was sold into the hands of Potiphar, you see, God's all about setting people up. An officer of Pharaoh. But the Word says in Genesis 39, verse 2 and following, the Lord was with Joseph. And he was a successful man. And he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him. And the Lord made all he did to prosper in his hand. Success comes through right living. Here's a man of integrity who had not forgotten his God, nor was he holding a grudge against him. God was still prospering his life. He was still successful. We find later he still had integrity. You see, the gifts of God, the gifts and the favor of God go with you even into the hard places. No matter where you find yourself, if you become a child of God and His Spirit lives in you, you go through any hard place you want to go through. You can be between a rock and a hard place, God's there. You can go through the valley of the shadow of death, God's there. You can go through hard times that is beyond, that would kill any normal man. But you, because of Him, will be able to lift your head during those times. He was a man of integrity. You see, God don't abandon us when we go through hard times. Here was a man of destiny. And yet he had to go through hardships to get to that place. I remember the church is confused, first of all. I don't mean ReaLife, I just mean the church. We misunderstand things. We look at circumstances and we say, oh, that's what that is. That's what that means. I had a friend by the name of Steve. Y'all have heard me talk about him many times. He led me to Christ. No one ever witnessed to more people than this man. I've never seen anyone witness to so many people and touch so many lives as he did. The funeral home was packed, lined for hours to be able to get in to see this one man who had touched so many lives. But this man fell on hard times. His life, if you would have looked at the circumstances of his life, things were not good. But he never really let you know it. He never really let people know it. Every now and then I would see glimpses of it because I was so close to him. Others he would allow into his life. Very few would he allow in to let them see the hurt and the pain that he was actually in. But in that divorce and the things that he faced in his life, even before he had met me, he went through such a hard time that financially he was broke. And yet he would take money out of savings, and I didn't know it until later, to bless me. Or he would take money out of his savings, even though he didn't have a job that was bringing any money in for it. He would take money out of savings to be able to take someone out to dinner, to be able to bless them, to talk to them about the Lord. He was sacrificial in his giving. Financially, he got to the point we just couldn't do it anymore. He was so hurt financially. And I remember the church, just different ones in the church. There must be sin in his life. Because he's going through such a hard time. There's got to be sin. Because God don't let people go through hard times like, you better read the Bible. Because God doesn't allow you to experience the rock and the hard place in your life. He wants to know what you're going to do. And sometimes it's the rock and the hard place that positions you to success. And without the rock in the hard place, you could not arrive to your destiny. Listen, if Joseph had never been sold into Egypt and never been imprisoned, he would never have been able to arrive to the place of power that he did. He was the second man in all of Egypt. But they say, let's get rid of the dreamer. They got rid of him, and here he is. He's in the land of Egypt. He could have been sold to any person, any place. But nope. He was sold to the house of Potiphar to work for the king. To work for Pharaoh. And so the gifts and favor of God go with us even to hard places, and hard places become the stepping stone in order. The thing that meant to kill us becomes a stepping stone in order for us to go forward. And so we have to have an attitude when we go through hard times like that of Job, who spoke to his wife, and his wife says, just curse God and die. Get it over with. Curse it and go. She meant it. She loved him. I believe that was the only thing she knew. And I believe she loved him and said, if you'll curse him, God is going to take you out and you'll be out of this misery. Joseph said, I've accepted good from him. Shall I not accept the difficult? God's been good to you. God's been good to me. Shall we not accept the goodness and the difficult? And that was the attitude that Job had. And that's the attitude I believe that Joseph had, or at least the word says that he experienced the mercy of God. When we go through difficult times, and the Word warns us and encourages us in the book of Hebrews, which is a book of faith. In chapter 10, verse 35, therefore do not cast away your confidence, which hath great reward. Don't throw it away. Don't cast it off. Don't get rid of it. Keep your faith. If you've lost your faith, go back and get the faith that you need. Let it be revitalized in your life. You see, some people want God's success. They want that. And let me tell you, God's success will take you places that are sometimes difficult, because that's His way. When He called the disciples, and you've heard me say it many times, He told them immediately, the cross is before you. Pick up your cross and follow me. The cross meant an instrument of death. At the very beginning of His ministry, Jesus announces, listen, I'm not giving you a rose bed. Okay, I'm not saying life's full of roses and we're going to walk through by the butterflies and just sing, beautiful songs. There's some hard things in store for you. There's some hard things in store for real life. But we can do it if we don't faint. We can do it if we don't faint. You think Joseph had been through enough, and yet he comes upon another situation. He's a young man, good looking. Many of you know the story. Good looking guy. Could have had probably any woman that he wanted in the area. There was one woman that wanted him, and a woman that he couldn't have, and a woman that he didn't want to have because she belonged to another man. And the word says in Genesis 39:7, and it came to pass after these things, that his master's wife cast longing eyes on Joseph, and she said, lie with me. You know what a lot of people would do? Man, I've been through enough. I'm already in Egypt. God's left me. He's already abandoned me. I've been through enough. I might as well just enjoy myself while I'm here. I'm not done with all this other stuff. I'm giving up on the dream. I'm going to just enjoy my senses. The word said Joseph refused. He refused to be with her. And he did not refuse her because he didn't have needs and wants like anybody else. He was human like anybody else. But he refused to be with her because he says, you know what? This man, this Potiphar guy, there's not one thing that he hasn't given me.